Hi all, I'm Dan Smagrod, founder of the We Get Around Network Forum. Today is Thursday, March 9th, 2023, and you're watching WGAN TV live at 5. We have an awesome show for you today. Leverage the SuperViz SDK for Matterport and 3D models to supercharge collaboration. And we have two awesome subject matter experts for this topic. SuperViz co-founder and CEO Russ Rive. Hi, Russ. Thanks for being on the show again.
Hey, Dan. Great to be back.
Thank you. And SuperViz Vice President of Engineering, Tommy Linderstrom. Tommy, good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you for inviting me.
You bet. Thank you for being our subject matter expert today on the SuperViz SDK. I thought for the benefit of our audience, we would just say that the first half of the show, let's assume that the WGAN TV audience members are decision makers and product managers interested in how to add value to Matterport and other 3D models. So we're going to speak in everyday language that CEOs and product managers can understand. And then for the second half, kind of a deeper dive for the benefit of chief technology officers, coders, programmers that have been asked to evaluate how much tech resources will be needed to add these SuperViz features to Matterport tours and other 3D models. We'll speak geek, we'll speak tech. So I thought before we jump into the SuperViz SDK topic, Russ, how about just a kind of a big picture overview of SuperViz?
Yeah, I mean, so the idea with SuperViz is to make it really easy, just using a web browser to meet inside of remote digital twins, whether they're reality captures, whether they're 3D models, but turn those typically single player experiences into multiplayer collaborative meetings, whether you're guiding, presenting, selling something. And so how do we make that really, really easy for you to do and make it as easy as just sending a meeting link as you would normally, whether it's a Google Meet or a Zoom, you just click it, opens up the whole 3D space, synchronizes with everyone gets inside, has a full video conference experience, but at the same time has an individual point of view, avatar, walk around, see where you're pointing experience. So kind of recreate the feeling of being somewhere together, but through a browser. And that somewhere could be anything from a reality to a projected reality of what people would like to build. So how do we make that really, really easy for people to do is the general vision.
Awesome. And that's whether the space exists even before it's built, to view it perhaps in a BIM model.
The whole process really.
Through the whole life cycle of a building at every, perhaps even in weekly construction documentation in every phase of that build out to have.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. And we have customers that use it through all those phases, from the initial phases where it's mostly just internal meetings of architects and stakeholders, meeting inside of really simple BIM models, walking around the space, commenting on it as if they're walking around inside of it. Then as they start rendering it out and start making it photorealistic to really get a feel with textures, they start using the tool then to start presenting, maybe even pre-selling some of these spaces or before they're going to be building, really get the feeling of it. And then once they start getting into the building phase of it, well, this is during the construction, they're doing reality captures of the progress of the construction and having remote people be able to meet and walk the construction site, whether you're calling an instruction engineer or stakeholders. They can do remote construction site management and on-site meetings remotely. And then, of course, once it's ready, then they do reality capture just to capture what it actually looks like in the sales process, where they can now actually show it in the portfolio of what it actually came to. So this idea of meeting remotely during this idea of building out spaces goes from the whole process, all the way from the early design to right at the end. You're right.
We did two deep dive WGAN TV shows. I'm going to refer our viewers to Meet, Present, Collaborate Inside Matterport Tours via SuperViz, and AEC Team Meet Inside Your BIM Models, powered by SuperViz. Both those shows, you can easily find them at wgan.info/SuperViz on WGAN. So those were deep dive demos of the front end and of the back end. And I think for today's purpose, that'll enable you to move faster with the understanding that you're speaking to either Matterport service providers that are intimately understanding SuperViz, but trying to take it to the next step, or the tech teams that are trying to do the evaluation to understand, well, how complex is it? Or I should say, probably how easy is it to implement the SuperViz SDK? I'd like to go over with you, Russ, on the SuperViz SDK to make sure that we hit at least 6 things. SuperViz SDK for immersive meetings, 3D viewer plugins, real-time data properties, avatars, broadcast dashboard, and really tease out what do those mean, and then what do they look like, perhaps through some examples. Do you want to jump in on the SuperViz SDK?
Yeah, so the SDK is a really exciting product that we've released recently. So the 2 episodes you were mentioning, where people can meet easily inside of BIM models or Sketchfab or existing Matterport tours, that's a product we call Instant Meetings. And that basically means anyone can sign up for an account, drop in their files, drop in their Matterport tour links, their Sketchfab links, and then we'll host everything and take care of it, and you can just start generating your meetings and meeting inside of it. So we made it really easy. We did all the integration, turned it into a turnkey product. Now, what we started hearing from the market is people were saying, well, that's really cool, but I would like SuperViz to work in this tool or that tool. Or we use Matterport, but we also use MP Skin to do all the extra things that it does. So I'd like to be able to present and work inside of the MP Skin project. And so we started hearing that quite a bit, and a light bulb went off. We said, well, how about we then create a software development kit, like an SDK, that allows any tool out there, whether it's a company using the Matterport SDK, creating their own tool on top of the Matterport SDK, whether it's someone working with BIM models or any 3-dimensional space. So let's take this technology that we've built internally to create the instant meetings and now offer the core technology so any company out there can take advantage of that through a web service. So if you have any application that you think of that does viewing of 3D models, viewing of digital twins, viewing of reality scans, but it's really sort of a single player experience where you send a link and people go into it, which is more like a typical Matterport project, or say just entering Forge to see Autodesk projects. Now with SuperViz SDK, just a couple of lines of code, you can bring all those functions that you'd see in the instant meeting product that we had before, which includes video conferencing, presenting, functions like follow me, gather people, to really help to show people where to go, avatars, laser pointers. You can even present what we call broadcast mode. So you can go up to, say, 230 people in a meeting, where you have up to 16 people with avatars and webcams, but another 230 spectators, audience members, following around, where you can also activate the follow me, the gather, the jump to, all these tools natively supported inside of our SDK. And so this is really exciting. So we now are able to enable anyone that has these platforms to take this next step in collaboration to their platform, where they don't have to invest all that time and energy and funds to try and build something like this, because it's really taken us a while and it's a lot of investment to do. Someone can now turn that on literally within a couple of hours to have a proof of concept, maybe 2 or 3 weeks to actually have something in front of their customers, and then be up and running with the SuperViz experience inside their product as a feature.
Awesome. Do you want to take us for a deeper dive demo, and maybe we start with immersive meetings and what that looks like?
Yeah, well, I'll share my screen here and I'll drop us in from my website. So
while Russ is sharing his screen, I'll point out that you can go to superviz.com is the main website, superviz.com. And for the SDK, superviz.com/SDK.
All right, has my screen come up there? Okay, great. So I've just come to our website. So this is what you would see as you're coming to SuperViz, and you'll see very quickly it sort of divides into these 2 options. The instant meeting is what we talked about in the other episode. So if you're just an end user of Matterport, or you have the models, you can go in here, create a subscription, and go in and start meetings. What we're talking about today is what we recently launched, which is the SDK. So now the SDK, like I mentioned, allows you to bring this functionality to any tool that you have. So you can go through here and take a look at our documentation, which Tommy will get into in a bit. We make it really easy to do. Here are the features we quickly talked about, the immersive meetings, the plugins. Now, what the plugins, think of it as we have the base SDK that takes care of this whole concept of video conferencing, synchronizing positions inside a 3D space. And the plugins are just to make it really easy for the most popular use cases. So we have a Matterport plugin, which means out of the box, it already works with Matterport SDK if that's what you're using. We have a 3JS plugin. So if you want to go ahead and work with anything that is using 3JS, and we're going to have many other plugins coming down the line. We have the Forge plugin that's about to be released as well. And over time, we'll be adding other different plugins. And sometimes we just have to add examples as opposed to plugins because it's a custom development. We have examples being built out right now with the Unreal Engine doing pixel streaming. How could you turn that experience into a multi-person experience? Another interesting thing we have is what we call the real-time data properties. Now, if you think of SuperViz, what we're doing is we have the synchronization layer running in a meeting, which similar to say in this meeting, it synchronizes like windows and share screens and mics and so on. But in SuperViz, we take it to another level because we're synchronizing coordinates of everyone inside the space. We're synchronizing what they're looking at. We're synchronizing projects that are changing. So what we've done is we've exposed that synchronization engine to the developer where they can use that now to synchronize any property throughout the meeting. So if you have a custom application and say you want to synchronize, say you have an application for doing interior design, you want to change the color of a carpet. So you could use our synchronization engine. So if the host goes and changes the carpet color, you just tell our engine and then it automatically syncs it to everyone in the meeting. So it just keeps everyone in sync. That becomes really powerful. So people can sync pretty much any property amongst anyone inside the meeting. We've exposed that. Avatars, we've integrated with Ready Player Me for the defaults, but you can also add any avatars that you'd like inside of this. We really make it open. The dashboard is really cool because that's where you go. As a developer, you can see all the meetings happening on your platform, which customers are having, how many minutes, limit people, know how to build them. Because what happens if you think of what we're doing here is we're turning SuperViz, instead of an individual subscription for people to run meetings, we're turning it as a web service for another company to integrate into their tool. So at that point, we're charging for participation minutes per person in a meeting. So how the customers end up charging their customers is up to them. And the dashboard is really useful for that because that's where they can see exactly who's using how many minutes and so on. It's the back end view into this engine of how people are using your application. So I've talked about these things. Let me go ahead and show an example, for example, of what this looks like. So, once you log into your developer, and Tommy will get into this, I'm not going to get into the technical part of it, but basically you sign up for an SDK developer account, and then it gives access to the GitHub, and that basically the code, and you can download and start running these examples. And if you know what you're doing, you can literally do that within a couple of minutes. Download an example, and then so we've done a couple of examples here in this library of examples. We're going to keep expanding, but it's a nice way for people to just really quickly just see how it works. So I'm going to go ahead and start an example here. I'm going to put in my name. You can see that. So it's just basically a demo of that. I'm going to copy the meeting. It's already generated a meeting link for me. And you have the code to this whole example if you want to do it yourself. I'm going to send this in the background here to Tommy. So he'll come in and join me there. Let me know if you got that link there, Tommy. I think you got it right. So I'm going to go ahead and start this meeting.
Yes.
And it looks very much like a video conference. And I think, keep in mind that this is an implementation of a UI. When you integrate this into your product, it looks whatever you'd like it to look like, right? I'm going to mute my mic so we don't have two microphones running at the same time here. And then you can see here we have the default avatars. And again, this is just the default that we're putting here. You can use whatever avatars you'd like in your SDK. And now it looks very similar to the instant meeting experience, except keep in mind that all this is totally customizable. Where these buttons are, how the layout looks, all these elements, you have access to the code, right? In this case, I'm doing an example of a digital twin reality scan using Matterport. Okay, so we've loaded that up here. You can see Tommy's come in here. It looks very much like a video conference environment. Everything you'd expect from that. As a host, I can change the screen. I can have them follow me. I can say gather all as I go around the place. I say gather. Tommy will come over to where I am. I can add the follow me function. All that stuff you saw from the instant meeting. In this case, also we've got an example here where we can change meetings. So change projects. And so when you have the code, you can right away just put your own projects in there and start changing between them. But it's just to show you how quick and easy it is to get up and running. And so in this case, whereas previously this would be just an example of SuperViz, now it's all open source. So you get the GitHub, you can see this example running, you can see how it is, you can tweak it, you can start adding your logos, you can change your UI, you can move things around. But it just shows you how quick and easy you can have this learning up on your own environment with your own application in a matter of really under an hour if you know what you're doing. using our documentation. But you can see here we are. Now we turned a Matterport tour into a multi-person avatar video conference meeting. One of our customers that actually has this in production already that I'd like to highlight is MP Skin. So their whole platform is now also supporting SuperViz. So they've gone and used the SDK and got it up and running. They were part of the beta period, and they actually launched it to their customers before the final release because it was so stable and so popular within their platform. And so all the MP Skin features would be then on top of all the stuff that you have here in Matterport with SuperViz integrated. So it's really exciting to see people bring this. And this could have been a 3D model, a BIM file, a Sketchfab, it's 3JS. You can use it basically for anything. If you want to create a video conferencing system with spatial data on top of your app, we take care of all the heavy lifting for you. All the stuff that you would have to figure out how to do, you can then get that up and running very quickly. But yeah, I mean, it's quite simple. So there's not much more to show here. I'm going to stop sharing, but you can see how, it's very similar to the instant meeting experience, except now you can do whatever you'd like and then add it to your program.
Cool. Before we go into a deeper dive with Tommy, was there anything else that you wanted to cover in an overview of the SuperViz SDK?
So with the SuperViz SDK, we want to make it really a no-brainer. So if you were thinking and if you're considering adding multi-user collaboration with video conferencing to your application, which is becoming more and more important these days. If you look at most of the applications are going that way. You have Figma, you have Miro, you have all these application, Notion, everything is becoming multi-person real-time interaction. So it really, if it's not on your roadmap, it's something you really should be thinking about. How do you bring multi-person collaboration to your platform? And so in this case, we want to make it just super simple. If you start doing the math of should I hire, whatever, the 6 engineers, get them up and running for a year, maintain all this code, it just doesn't make any sense. Where you could be up and running in a matter of days with a proof of concept, in a matter of 2 or 3 weeks into your production environment. Really for free from our point of view, because we offer the starter package. We offer anyone that wants to use the SDK 1,000 free minutes a month. So every month it's 1,000 free minutes. So if you're in your development phase, you're busy testing it, you're showing it to a couple of pilots, you're not going to hit your 1,000 minutes a month, and there's zero cost for you. After that, it's really affordable. It's $99, 5,000 minutes, and then Enterprise gets 50,000 minutes, and it gets to the point where it's just really, really affordable without you having to do any team or development investment.
So just to clarify, if you're ready to get started, you'd go to superviz.com/SDK. You'd set up a free account that has a free SDK account that has the first 1,000 minutes free in order to build it out. And all the pricing's on the website. So if you want to just hit the pricing tab. We've been talking a lot about Matterport, but just to clarify, the solution that we just looked at, SuperViz integration within Matterport, within a third-party cloud software such as MP Skin and Overlay for Matterport tours. We've been looking at Matterport, but everything that you just showed us works equally as well in any 3D model, any BIM model, any CAD file, any
absolutely
data example.
Even something that's just 2-dimensional. Even if it's you just want to be syncing properties, it's a really powerful sync engine in the background. So even if you're doing something in 2 dimensions and you want to add collaboration, say it's a layout software that you want to do, it's a floor plan designer, even in 2 dimensions, it's a really powerful SDK to create collaboration and synchronize properties between meetings.
Russ,
participants.
So I have, maybe you could speak to SuperViz versus maybe Zoom. And okay, I'm using Zoom and I'm using Matterport, or I'm using Zoom and CAD files, and I'm doing my meeting. That's how I'm doing my meetings now.
Right. Well, so if you had
why should I switch?
Yeah.
What are the advantages of integrating the SuperViz meet, present, collaborate experience within the 3D model versus sharing via Zoom or some other platform?
There's a pretty fundamental difference, right? So Zoom is not really aware of the content, right? Zoom is a pure video layer between people and on top of a shared screen. there's no integration into the actual content that's happening behind it. There's no integration into the application. So if I'm sharing my screen in Zoom, it's just purely doing another video stream as if it was a webcam. It's really oblivious to actually what is the application. And so what SuperViz is, it's really about bringing collaboration into the application. It's about adding collaboration to an application. It's not about just doing video conferencing. So if you want to present a place, if you want to give individual point of views in walking through a space, you can't recreate walking through an apartment that you're trying to sell in Zoom together. What you do is it becomes a very passive experience. The person's doing a screen share. Screen share by nature can be pretty choppy and low resolution because you're streaming that in real time. Our point of view is that you want to take everyone to the apartment and then just control as they're walking around. So everyone has their own point of view. Everybody can point to things individually. Everybody's running the application individually on each of their platforms. So it's a fundamental difference of we bring the collaboration inside the platform, and it's really important what the application is. What is the software running? Because that's where the integration happens. Whereas Zoom or any video conferencing is just a pure webcam layer, and they don't really care what the content is behind. It's a very big, and there's no concept of, say, synchronizing properties, synchronizing projects, loading things remotely. It's a very different way of looking at the world. If you create an application that has multi-person interaction, where each person's running a version of the app at the same time, whether it's to visualize or update, then Zoom isn't really a solution. It's not designed for that. Whereas we really designed to bring multiple people into an application together with a sense of presence. Yeah.
My sense also is SuperViz is super smooth versus perhaps a Zoom that's super latent, and all of a sudden everything starts to feel kind of kludgy about trying to share. And I don't know why that is, but I just have the sense that trying to share Matterport space using Zoom is simply not the right tool for.
Well, if you think what's happening, right, when you're sharing a screen, and Matterport, especially if you're doing a tour of a screen share, that screen's moving a lot, so it's a lot of pixels and it's streaming. What SuperViz is doing is we're loading the model individually in everybody. So everybody's rendering the perfect image locally on their computer, and we're just sending coordinate data. So little streams of variables going back and forth. So the data to do that is so much smaller, and it's very accurate. There's no choppiness in the data. So if I move to another spot, then I'm just saying Russ moved to another spot, but the actual individual rendering is picture perfect because everyone is running their own visualizer.
So that's part of what the magic of SuperViz is that
exactly
that you're actually transmitting very, very little data, which means everyone has their own view of a Matterport space. And the only thing that's being pushed to everyone is the nuance of maybe the avatar looked left or looked right or pointed up or down, which is presumably very little data, and therefore doesn't have this overhead of slowing down and dragging that experience.
Exactly. Very similar to, say, these modern video games that look so realistic, but yet you're playing with 30 people in the game at the same time. So the reason why that looks good is everybody's rendering their own video game. You're not streaming the video game. What you're streaming is just tiny little numbers back and forth between the people that synchronizes it. So it's a very much thinking of video conferencing like an immersive video game and not just video streams.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you the same question again before we go to Tommy. From a marketing standpoint, this is why I should add the SuperViz SDK experience to Matterport in particular, or to other 3D models in general. Is there anything else to add before we do a deep dive tech?
I really believe that this is a feature that's low cost, quick to implement, that adds a lot of value to your platform. And whether that value is differentiation, whether it's retention, whether it's a revenue opportunity, so you can charge more for a premium service, where you want to incent people to, say, upgrade to a better package, which includes this. It's a really good way to increase customer satisfaction, create super fans, and increase value. And how you want to use that value is up to you.
Yeah, I think during our deep dive in the Matterport experience, we talked about how maybe Matterport is a tool, but Matterport plus SuperViz is actually a solution. And when you get to that solution, all of a sudden, you really do have a way to have fewer people travel, which means you're starting to save a lot of money. You're saving a lot of time. you're enabling things that weren't possible before when people were traveling, because traveling means you need to plan in advance and you may need to do something today. And so being able to meet, present, collaborate with that presence within a 3D environment means you might be able to save time, save money, reduce headaches, pain. And I think one of those words that we used a lot during those two other shows was rework, because when things get out of control, particularly in construction, the later you catch the problem, the more exponentially the cost of fixing that problem becomes.
Yeah, exactly. And in SuperViz, you have context. You are pointing at something as if you were there. It's like this wall needs to change, and there's a record of someone actually saying it and pointing at something.
Okay.
And even the spectator, even the person that the guest is also looking around. So it's not just a sort of a very passive stream of information.
Okay, awesome. So Tommy, I'm a chief technology officer. I'm a CTO. I just got promoted to some app that is a overlay of Matterport. I've been asked to by my CEO to evaluate how easy it is to implement the SDK, the SuperViz experience within Matterport models in particular, within any kind of CAD model, 3D model in general. Speak to me tech to tech. What is it that I'm going to ask you that I need to know in order to implement the SuperViz SDK as a tech person?
Well, yeah. First thing is, of course, that it is web-based, so everything needs to run in a browser, of course. Essentially, our SDK is an overlay on any content inside of a browser. So you can initialize our SDK, and it is an overlay that is an iframe for the camera feed, and then connects to the content that you have on your screen.
Do my users need to download anything? Do they need to?
There is no download at all. No, there's no download at all. And the way, like, when we started this this project, the main we had like a few goals or a few things that we really wanted to achieve by having this one. And the first thing was that it should be easy and quick to implement. So very much out of the box with as few lines of code as possible, I would say. Saying that, of course, it's important that we create a SDK that has the flexibility that the companies need to be able to work in any kind of web application, and also being able to function within the UX experience for these tools, because they already exist.
Is this JavaScript? Is it something else?
Yes, but you can you can actually, any kind of JavaScript, any kind of front-end technology would work with the SuperViz SDK. It's not limited to any kind of a specific language or anything. So you can do it in React, in JavaScript pure, whatever you want to do, actually. There's no limitation on that. The idea is really to be able to get it up and running very fast with very few lines of code, very little limitations, and really start from there. That's
Let's
kind
focus, if we may, on Matterport first. So how easy is it to get started with Matterport?
Yeah, so our SDK consists, you can say, of three main components. So we have a meeting overlay, then we use plugins, and we use the real-time data engine that Russ mentioned earlier.
Why don't you show the documentation, Tommy? There's some images that show it.
Yeah, I'll bring it up. So the idea is that,
so as Tommy's bringing up his screen, if you go to superviz.com/SDK, there is a tab for resources that's going to take you to doc.superviz.com. I think that's where Tommy is headed right now.
The documents.
Yes.
So
can you see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Just move it over.
And just again, to clarify for our viewers, Tommy is at DOC, excuse me, is it DOCS? Yeah,
Yeah, it's
Uh,
like it's docs.supervis.com. So here, this is our documentation, and again, the purpose is really to be very clear in our communication on how to implement this and show how easy it is. So here, you can see right away when you come in, we show the architecture of how this works. So you have your application, you add the meeting overlay. You have access to our real-time data engine, and then you can use plugins if needed. The plugins are, again, something that we now launched, the Matterport, the Three.js, the Autodesk is coming soon, and further down the line, we'll have other technologies that we will bring in that we see is being used in the space.
Excuse me, Tommy, just to clarify where it says Autodesk, that will be an Autodesk Forge plugin.
That is, yeah, they don't call it Forge anymore. So they actually call it Autodesk. Well, I can't remember, but it's they changed the name. But that is actually the viewer. That is their development kit that they use.
Okay. And so the key thing about that Autodesk viewer is that I want to say, Russ, from our previous show, that there was at least 60 different formats that Autodesk supports. So whether you're working in Sketchfab or Revit or FBX or IFC or whatever it is, it's likely supported by Autodesk.
The Autodesk platform services, the nice thing about it is they've solved to be able to load, like you said, 60 types of different file extensions for 3D models.
And then Tommy, today's Thursday, March 9th, 2023. What month in 2023 are we talking about for that Autodesk plugin to be working?
So we are looking at a timeline from about 6 weeks from now that we will launch the Autodesk plugin, the platform. So it's Autodesk Platform Services. It's the new one.
So by June 30th, for sure, that's going to be working. Russ, do you want to say something different on that?
Well, just the idea of plugins in general. If you think of plugins, it's kind of similar to examples, because these plugins aren't something that someone else couldn't build. The idea is that from the plugins to the right, that area there is total. You can do anything you want with the platform. Really, the core tech is that middle bar, the SuperViz SDK. We're creating these plugins just because it's anyone could have built these. It's almost as if we're doing examples, and we want to make it faster and easier for people that happen to be using the Autodesk platform services or Matterport or Three.js. And so it's a part of the SDK which just accelerates the development. But
I would imagine
it's not that you couldn't use it for any of these that's missing there. Not that you have to wait for a plugin, because anybody can make a plugin. Yes, the core tech is really the SDK.
That said, I would imagine the addition of the Autodesk feature plus Matterport plus Three.js, the JavaScript, would probably cover 95% of all the end use cases today.
Yeah, it does. The initial ones, I would say, the early adopters. We are starting to see interest from people that are doing things like Unreal Engine, pixel streaming, even people that are doing two-dimensional tools that they've written from scratch, which Three.js is great for because it already kind of has some integration with that. So yeah, we're excited to really see where people take this, because the SDK, these plugins are related to where the instant meetings that we have, the market seems to be gravitating towards. But if you think of the SuperViz SDK, it really is much more of a Joker card. I mean, there's so much that can be done with it that we're excited to see where people take it. You could, for example, use the SuperViz SDK to create a video game. That you could do anything you'd want with it, because it would take care of the whole hassle of having the sync engine, having the meeting overlay, having all that stuff is just taken care of in a package.
Yes. I would say, though, for our audience, WGAN TV, We Get Around Network Forum, primarily interested in Matterport integration. And then second, I would probably say is Revit and BIM model integration, maybe Sketch.
And that is where we've been seeing the early interest. You're right.
Yeah. Okay, Tommy, back to you.
All right. Yeah. So the idea is through our previous work with Autodesk, previously called Forge, like that to really to create that plugin and the complexity of injecting objects into their API, etc. We've been through that, and that's why also the plugins are very powerful, because then they don't need to do that. The same thing for Matterport, whoever will implement this. So the idea of these plugins is that we move forward as quickly as possible, so they can get this up and running. And it's really in here we have the full documentation. So I'm just going to show you a very simple, essentially, and this could get a little bit technical here, but
which is perfectly fine. Reminder: I'm wearing my CTO hat, and I'm keeping up with you. So go for it.
All right. So as I mentioned in the beginning, like one of our goals with this was really to create something that you could implement with as few lines of code as possible, like really to get it up and running. And of course, there are stuff around it, but like the main engine for the SuperViz SDK is really this amount of code. So it's very really quick to get up and running, really like fast. You can even go to our GitHub. You can download one of our examples. You could see it. You add in your developer token, and you would really be able to have it running inside of your own application really fast. So that was the idea. So in here we have, again, really trying to being able to get up and running as fast as possible, but also really create the flexibility in this in our SDK. So we keep adding parameters, functionality, etc. to this, to our versions. We try to launch new versions like every week, every other week with updates. It could be a new method. It could be listeners. It could be features to the camera overlay, whatever. But really continuously updating the source code, and so people can go in here and follow this. Furthermore, of course, we have an API connected, and that is really where you can go in and you can get data out of our database. So you can go in and get meeting data, meeting stats, etc. So if you have a dashboard on your end, you don't have to use our dashboard that I'm going to show you soon. You can create your own. You can figure out how many minutes a group of customers that you have, how many minutes they spend, so you can build them, etc. So we have an API that's connected to that as well. So yeah, it's really our key concepts. I think to get started is really important. I think as this is a fairly new space for many people, we're really trying to specify anything that we work with, that we speak about every day inside of SuperViz, and maybe not everyone really understands what is a plugin, etc. So we're really trying to specify any of these subjects well in our documentation.
Okay. I heard you say that the code is hosted on GitHub. Is that correct?
Yes. Well, we have everything is on GitHub, of course. So we use GitHub not only for our SDK. Other than that, we use it for our example. So you can also go in and check it out. The how we implemented SuperViz in different scenarios. So we have like a long list of ideas for inspiration for companies, what they can do. And so next week we are planning to go, we're gonna send out an example with walking avatars inside of IFC models. It's like a playground for us, but it's a good opportunity for us to really share how you can use our SDK. That's kind of the
okay. So you're on GitHub. Does that mean you're using the ticketing system there as well? If I have some tech questions, I want to speak to my counterpart, I can submit a ticket through GitHub.
Exactly. So really from the beginning of when we started out this project, we really wanted to be close to the companies who is going to develop this. And so we had, as Ross mentioned, we had like a pre-release phase where we invited a bunch of companies that helped us out, not only to give feedback, but also to give like feature requests, etc. And this is really how we're planning to move forward with this. So we use GitHub, their ticket management system. They call it issue management, but it's really where they can raise questions and they can give feature request, feedback, etc. Because that's really what brings our
Yes. So if I'm used
product
to,
forward.
if I'm used to using GitHub for feature requests, that whole process that's implemented for SuperViz as well. So I don't really have to send off an email to somebody. Nope, just post, here's a wish list. I'd like to be in Unreal Engine doing whatever it is that I want to do in Unreal.
I want to point out,
exactly.
we take the support to the next level. If you're an enterprise account, we also have a shared Slack channel where you have direct access to the developers. And so it's not just tickets and emails, but you're actually in a real-time chat if you have any questions. We really want to feel like we want customers to feel like our development team is part of their development team. And so we create a shared Slack channel for real-time communication. We really are serious about making it easy to communicate.
Okay.
Yeah, and trying to be as transparent as possible. Like we even share like our roadmap, etc. Like so everyone can really follow like what's going on. But that's kind of the idea that we believe that we get the best end product. We're really working closely together with these companies who want to implement SuperViz.
So essentially, you can see on the SuperViz GitHub board that if Unreal has been proposed as an idea, that it's been moved to implementation, that you can actually see it's on the technology roadmap for SuperViz. It's not a mystery. Exactly. It's all posted. You can see what's coming, what features are coming, what features have been requested, whether those features have been approved for implementation.
Exactly, and that's how we created like the what we're working now in like our current the Q1 is really based on feedback, like from pre-release that we are hopefully gonna release, soon and frequently. But that's the idea, really, to be as transparent as possible.
Tommy, what other questions should I be asking you about how easy it is to implement SuperViz SDK? Is there anything in particular about the API that you want to talk about from a technical standpoint? Is there anything else in terms of SDK?
I think maybe I would like to show maybe just like how the dashboard works. So I can just, if I can share my screen again.
Yes, that'd be great. Again, while Tommy's setting up, you can go to superviz.com/SDK. The documents we were looking at were at docs.superviz.com.
Exactly. So like when you create an account, you come in here and you set up your account and you're gonna go getting started, where we link you to the docs, to our GitHub, etc. So that's like really trying to guide you to get as much information you need as quickly as possible. When you have it up and running on your machine or locally, you would actually be able to see if you had a meeting. We have stats coming in here for, this is a test dashboard we have here, where you can go in and see, oh, we had this amount of minutes yesterday. We use groups, as I said before, to segment your users as a company. So that is quite important. We have like a last 5 minutes, and you can then go into details in our meeting tab here and get like more information of these meetings. You can filter them per month, etc. For the developers, we use developer token. So that means that, which is a secret, that that is our identification of you and who the company is. We expose that inside of the dashboard here. We use whitelists, so actually, so they need to whitelist their domain. So we have that functionality, and we just started to implement webhooks. So that just got launched. And yeah, so this is like a regular dashboard that you know from other similar technologies, where you go in, and usually it is the developers that would go in and take a look at these things, and then maybe they would use our API to then create their own dashboard on their end in their current system.
Is there anything else that you want to show us?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. So I did mention that I'm a chief technology officer. I promoted myself, which means I like to code and I like to develop. So, you know, give me the pitch from your perspective as the as the vice president of engineering of SuperViz, why I shouldn't just go build this myself so that I don't have to be on a paid plan.
Show them the scar tissue, Tommy.
Yeah. Well, even as Russ mentioned, you know, there is really these things takes time. It requires a full development team. Like if you just take video conferencing as one tiny part of our SDK, or a part of the SDK, I would say, that's not something you just go ahead and do. There are so many things you need to consider regarding connection, regarding meeting settings, devices. Doesn't work on Safari, this works on Safari, like all these things. People really get surprised, like how long this takes.
I'm sorry,
and
you still haven't convinced me. Why shouldn't
I still haven't convinced
myself?
you?
We're a large company. We got a ton of developers. You know, why don't we just go develop that the functionality of SuperViz ourselves rather than relying on the SuperViz SDK and API?
Well, I could respond by saying that with the SuperViz SDK, you'll be up and running in a week, and you'll never do it cheaper. Like unless you are the scale of like a massive company, which like at the top 0.001% of the world, maybe that was worth it for them to do it. But for everyone else, it's not going to be worth it. Even if you're running at 1 million meeting minutes per month, which means you're that still doesn't pay for an engineering team to do this. It just doesn't make sense. It's like building your own power station because you want electricity at home. It's like, doesn't make sense.
I was thinking of doing that.
Well, and the thing about it is that, and this is very much from our experience working in this space for the last few years, is, as I said, one part is the video conference. Then you have 3D. So that's like a whole different type of developer you need at that point. They need to speak to each other, the whole 3D part, like Matterport SDK, Forge API, etc. Like how do you inject avatars, how do you move them around? All these things, again, speaking to each other, the whole logic behind it, spinning up a sync engine, etc. As Russ said, like that wouldn't really be worth it. So these things is really what you get off the shelf, really, really easy and to a fair price.
Well, the real-time engine doesn't seem like it would be all that hard to build.
You can say if you build it as a single instance, no. But the thing is that what we take care of is the whole thing together working as a whole. That means that already when you're in the meeting, we already know who is in the meeting. They only speak to those other people in the meeting. So the whole logic that you have, that you would have to create yourself, it's out of the box. Because you simply just really subscribe to our engine and you create listeners. And that's what you do. So you just listen to events, you get them, you parse them, you do whatever you want, or you send these messages. And that's being taken care of inside the meeting, out of the box.
Before we go back to Russ, did you want to show us your scars? Russ had talked about you had some scars.
I think I have one here, and then I lost some here as well.
So really, if as the chief technology officer, if I wanted to go build this out from scratch, this could take me years. It would take me tons of team time, and then I have to maintain it as different platforms change.
Yes,
and it's an opportunity cost. So you're deciding to work on something that's being commoditized instead of building a unique feature inside, investing your time in building a really big differentiator. I mean, you got to make these decisions. So, yeah.
And it's really
strategically, it doesn't make sense.
And the idea is really with this SDK is that they will build it on an already existing platform most of the time. And this is what the companies already are focusing on. So you have, again, let's say NP Skin that is already implemented. They already have their platform. That's what their team is focused on. That is really the core what they spend their time on. If they add this whole layer of doing that, it just adds to the complexity, and that's really what we're trying to solve here.
Awesome. Russ, going back to you, I think I have two final questions, maybe three. First, so I'm still deciding whether to add these core features of SuperViz even to our platform. Do you want to give me one more pitch about why it's super important to add immersive meetings and real-time data properties to a Matterport tour, in particular a 3D tour, digital twin in general?
Yeah, I mean, basically it's about collaboration. So do you want people having individual experiences inside of your application, or do you want to have the network effect of having collaboration and communication happening inside of your tool? Do you want people to be leaving your tool every time they want to talk to each other, or would you like them to be doing it right inside of it? You want to keep their attention, So it just makes sense. If I mean, again, this is not going to be obvious for everyone. Someone might have something does like they do a PDF exporter for a 3D model. It's like, who needs to collaborate in that? Okay, not like everyone needs to do it. But for the majority of people, the tendency, if you look around, the applications are becoming multi-user, real-time collaborative. You see what's happened with Figma, and now Adobe now wants to buy them and pay that huge amount for it. What's the big difference? It's the real-time collaboration. Look at tools like Miro. It's all real-time collaboration. What's the difference with Notion? It's all real-time collaboration. So people are coming to expect this idea. People online in Slack the whole time because they need to be collaborating all the time. This idea that everybody's remote and just constantly collaborating is it's here to stay, and it's going to be expected from applications going forward. So if you have anything where people are making asynchronous decisions, you could optimize that by turning it into synchronization, a synchronized decision and presentation. And I think people should really be thinking about it. Maybe it's not something they want to do tomorrow, but if you're a product manager and you have a tool that people use for selling, for presenting, for designing, you should be thinking about how you can get your users to be collaborating.
And why the SuperViz SDK for adding those features?
So if you have a program that has three-dimensional spatial coordinates, whether it's reality captures, I mean, they're really like we're the best out there without selling ourselves too much. It's really, we've done a really good job, not because this is our first product. Remember, we've been doing this for a couple of years as the Instant Meeting, and we've taken all this tech that we've been building up over the past 2 or 3 years and just brought that to the SDK and made it available to the rest of the world. So you'd be leapfrogging all this development time. So anybody, first of all, I don't know of other company out there that has the full feature rate that we have for you to be able to add it. If you just want to add a video conferencing layer, fine. You have options out there. Not too simple, but you can probably do it. But if you want to add the synchronization and collaboration layer natively inside your application, inside three-dimensional space, and the plugins, you should really consider taking a close look at SuperViz, because then that's what we build. We build it to be the best option out there at the best value for doing something like this. And
is there a question, Tommy, that I haven't asked you that I should ask?
No, not as I can come up with.
Russ, is there a question that I haven't asked you that I should ask?
No, I think it's been pretty clear. And if you have a question, or if anybody has a question, we're really easy to get a hold of. If you go to the SuperViz site and you contact us, you can ask for Tommy or myself, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
So, and I noticed on the superviz.com/SDK webpage is the opportunity to set up a meeting. So if you're at the point to say, oh, okay, but I still have questions, you can go book a meeting, superviz.com/SDK. And that would be a logical next step, would be one of two things. Either go ahead and set up a SuperViz SDK account, get your free minutes, dive in. And or set up a meeting, a one-on-one to specifically talk SuperViz SDK with you all or a member of your team,
Yep.
such as Marcelo Franco, who's doing a lot of SuperViz SDK calls. Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think what I would like to do is have one last thought from you, is to take us back up to the big picture of the SuperViz vision about this virtually meeting, presenting, collaborating, teleportation. That there's this big picture vision that to help put somebody over the top to say, this is like essential to build this in to your platform.
Yeah, the genesis of SuperViz has always been this idea that, we're projecting ourselves virtually through all content, and this idea of everyone being remotely, the idea that we should also be able to get a sensation of being somewhere together without having to physically go there. How can we create a sensation? You mentioned a teleportation machine that runs in a browser. So the idea that we can have multiple realities and reality captures or 3D models that we sort of go in and out of as if we're meeting remotely, virtually in these spaces, as if there were browser tabs on the internet. So you can be in many places at the same time. How can I quickly teleport to a construction site in New York and then walk in the apartment in Italy that I'm going to be renting over the weekend? And how can I do that with everyone else? This idea of being able to flow easily back and forth between remote spaces and design spaces and really make it feel like you're there. How do we reduce the friction? The idea that, it's just this idea of like making it really easy to move around virtually anywhere and make it feel like you're actually there together with people. And there's so many ways that's going to be used, we see in the future, whether it's education, teaching people, training, selling, presenting, to be able to just really quickly click a button and be somewhere with someone. It just seems like something that humanity is definitely moving towards.
Awesome. Russ, Tommy, thanks for being on the show today.
Great. Always fun.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
We've been
Thank you,
visiting
Dan.
with SuperViz co-founder and CEO, Russ Rive, and SuperViz Vice President of Engineering, Tommy Lunderstrom. And I'm Dan Smigrod, founder of the We Get Around Network Forum, and you've been watching WGAN TV live at